doing drag alone in my room for like the
Uh-huh.
past few months. And I just went out like for the first time in drag like oh god, like a week ago.
Oh my god, really?
Yeah, like maybe a week and a half ago.
What was that like?
I It was scary. But like when you have all the makeup on and stuff, it's just like no one's gonna know who I am. Like,
Yeah.
I'm in a different city and no one knows. I might as well just do whatever I want to do. And then, like I won and I was like, "Oh, wow." And then suddenly like all these like drag families were coming up and being like, "Oh, hey,
Oh.
hi, how are you? What's going on?"
Or a male drag in your case.
It really was through Twitch actually because drag queens kept coming into my stream and like talking with me and a couple people like were like, "Can I do your art on my face?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then one day I was like, maybe I should try it. But I was still living with my parents and I knew they would not accept that.
Oh,
So
really?
like when I moved to Texas, the first thing I did after my parents were like, "Okay, have a good one, have a good life." Like I drove to Michael's and got yarn and was like, "We're making the yarn." I kind of sometimes like make it up as I go. The beards only take like maybe like an hour and a half sometimes. Like I have some that are like gradients
Yeah.
and everything. This one was actually the first one that I made. And then I think this actually took me a day because the underneath it's felt, and then I like made the actual pom poms and the roses. So like I don't know if you can like see, but like the roses are made of felt. Oh
On the
wait,
mitten.
on these?
Yeah. Is that a
Yeah,
carrot?
these are carrots.
Oh my.
Dear the drag queen on
Yeah.
Twitch.
Yeah, fucking deer. Yeah, we love deer.
She used to call me the book boy because they would come in my stream and watch me make books, and then I
Yeah, because
stopped doing books.
you
But
you made that?
yeah, this was actually okay. I love antiques. Yeah, this is my junk journal, and I like just kind of
That's so cool.
like I really like the concept of like I mean, okay, I'm gonna get like really fine artsy and like weird for a second. Concept of like plants growing from your head kind of like ideas do.
I love that. Like
And
rooted. Grounded
yeah,
almost.
so like I have a lot of like tree tree heads and stuff. Like I mean it was Telltale. They're now, but Gearbox actually like got the rights to the Tales of the Borderlands. So
Yeah, I
that
played it.
Telltale
Yeah.
game hadn't made money for like a really long time. There's actually a documentary that got released on YouTube not too long ago that me and my other friend from Telltale watched and we're like, yeah, it's pretty accurate to like,
Really?
like there was a lot of good, there was a lot of creativity, there were a lot of like really good and talented people working there, and it was a great place like when you were just getting into the industry and a few of the Batman games.
Oh, cool.
And I worked on like the end of the Tales of the Borderland game,
Uh huh.
like the fifth episode, and then what else? And then I worked on some of the Walking Dead stuff. I did camera work,
Oh, okay.
and and I did general layout, which is kind of like storyboarding. And basically, we were known as like the chore artists for like choreography, cinematography, and we would for the cinematic portions of those games, I'd take like bits and pieces from everything and kind of like collect them all together and make the cinematic out of all of that,
That's so
if that
cool.
makes sense.
All
Yeah.
these people. How did you make it?
It's actually like all the hairs are knotted in. The picture that I have in back, my mom thinks is satanic. So it's because of the horns on it.
Oh, and people
Yeah,
think.
I think. But and I have like little like character pins that I can like pin to it, so like that there's like characters on it and all
It's so
that.
cute. I want to
Oh,
go
there's
on
a
a fish.
oh, there's a waterfall on this side. I go to like a lot of like coffee shops and bars and stuff, and like before I like performed or anything. And like people would just come up and they just cup the beard and they're
It
like,
so makes
"You're
me
so
so
passionate."
happy.
Without getting like sad about it, is that I was depressed for a very long time and I wanted to make a character that I could aspire to be and that would make me happy working on them, and that if I dressed up as that character, I could feel happier. And before then, a lot of my art was like people would come into my streams or like would see my stuff and they'd be like, there's so much emotion in this, but it's really sad.
Yeah.
And I wanted to change that about myself, but every time I tried drawing it, it felt dishonest. And when I guess a few things happened. One, I realized that I was transgender, and I was like, oh, like, that's something. And then two, I realized I need to figure out a way to so depressed because I need to get a job and make money, and no one's
Yeah.
hiring a depressed
Just like
potato.
function, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know, it just all channeled into like this this
Yeah.
person, and it just, I don't know, it just kind of like blew up one day and I was like, this is it, this is what I need to do.
Can the puppet wish Anime Gamer 750 happy birthday?
Do I have to make it talk? She's got white roses growing on her, and that's because she's really old, but she's in denial, so she's dyeing them red as she gets older. Like she's an old woman dyeing her hair. But
That's so. You're like Jim Henson.
I love him. This is Zachary Van Haysworth, and he's fun. But we sing steam powered giraffe stuff together. So he's
Totally.
Wander Over Yonder from Disney. I don't know if you know that
Wander
cartoon.
over yonder. Why does that sound familiar?
It's yip a diddly diddly, a wander over yonder. I went on like an alcoholic bender last year,
Oh no.
which got, yeah, and that was mostly just like, that was like kind of like the depression era stuff. But if I didn't have that, then I wouldn't have made this.
Yeah, and now you have such a dope fucking outlet that not only that is probably gonna bring a lot of joy to a lot of people.
My stuff is like super like folky, and like you tip your hat, like kind of like, I don't know. And like when I see people and they're like, you just made me happy just by looking at you.
Yeah, Ashton Pay asked a good question. They go, as a fellow stream queen, I really appreciate your art. It's so influencing to say the least. Question, any favorite drag king / suggestions to educate us on?
Oh, definitely Androgyking. I love Androgyking so much. I didn't have my headphones, so I just kind of like walked to work phones like this, and people like will like stop and stare, but it's like it never really feels negative. It just either is like surprise, or like I get smiles and nods a lot. From a distance, I get a lot of people like being like, oh my god, what is that? But I think that's because I'm like far away.
Yeah.
But that's actually why I was so scared to start streaming again, because when I started doing drag on stream, it didn't go well.
Really?
So I stopped streaming. Eventually want to. I think I just was like when people knew me as like this meek little girl with like scruffy long hair, and then I was like, just kidding everyone, I'm a boy. And then people were like, oh. And then I was like, just kidding, I'm doing drag as well. And they were like, oh. And like a lot of my audience like just was not into that. So like, I mean, within like a month I lost like 200 people, and like my sub count went from like 60 to like 10. And I think people didn't believe me. And also when you still kind of look like a girl, because when I'm not in drag, like I have like short hair and I like, you know, do the do so that I look like a dude. And you know, it was just kind of like they didn't care or like respect that and they would still use feminine pronouns. Uh, and then when it like the transition started happening, they were like, "Oh, oh, you were serious. Oh, we're leaving." I like a lot of life from death kind of stuff. Like you see something dying and then from that there's like,
Like rising
yeah,
from the ashes.
yeah, and that's kind of like what this character started out as. And like
Ones
I
are almost.
love Pan's Labyrinth.
Yes, and
I've seen it like infinite
it
times.
makes me cry my eyes out so hard, and I never cry in movies, and it makes me cry. Did you make this?
Which one?
This little like puppet here.
Oh yeah, I make dolls too.
Like
I
about
will
you.
I will fly out anywhere.
Your art is
It's
so
so
cool.
weird. It's so weird because
Is
like
that deer?
I mean this is like crazy because like a week ago I was like I guess I'll go to this drag pageant. Like if nothing happens from it then that's okay and I'll just stop. Like this is just a crazy thing altogether. And now so much has happened in like the past week that I'm like it's
It's your
like
destiny.
my destiny. But
I believe in that stuff personally. Like I don't know. I'm very like superstitious. Like I